The opinions expressed here are exclusively those of CG Sense. No brand affiliations, free products, or affiliate marketing are associated with this video.
Before getting into the scent, I'm going to let you guys know Vibrato to me is a masterpiece fragrance. It's one of my favorites out there for the summer. It's got to be my favorite scent. But this review, I'm not going to just glaze it. I spent a lot of time with this fragrance. I thought about the positives and the negatives to give you guys a balanced review and a balanced thought process towards this scent. I actually do not think this scent is for everyone. A part of me actually considers this a more challenging fragrance, but as a fragrance enthusiast, I just absolutely love Vibrato. A lot of people don't know this, but I'm really trying to sell basically all of my collection. On the scent of the week, I've sold pretty much everything I've reviewed. The only two I haven't sold are Imagination and Green Irish Tweed. And I think I'm going to add Vibrato to the list. I think this is one of the few fragrances that I just physically can't sell. It just feels undervalued. It feels like the amount of money I'd get for this is never going to be what this fragrance is actually worth to me. So let's get into the scent. For a week straight, I started off my day with 4 sprays of Vibrato. 2 to the chest, 1 to each wrist. These atomizers, they're not the strongest atomizers, but this is a pretty strong fragrance. Granted, there is nose blindness that happens with this one, but for me, this is definitely one of those scents that like really far into the fragrance, like 10 hours after I put it on, I don't smell it at all, but my friend at work can immediately tell what it is I'm wearing. So I went a little lighter with the sprays with this one because of its strength. So the opening of this fragrance, for me, there's something a bit off about it. And it's really weird because I wore Vibrato last summer and I didn't get anything off with it. So it could literally just be my nose. But on the opening, I'm hit with the standard Vibrato smell. The standard Vibrato smell and the way I would describe it to somebody, it's very unique. If you smell Tigar, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what this smells like. But if you haven't, I feel like it's going to be kind of hard to describe it to people because it's its own thing. I feel like if I just thought grapefruit, I might think grapefruit juice or cutting open a fresh grapefruit. And it's not really like that to me. Like the way the grapefruit is blended in with the ginger, it's kind of its own thing. It's kind of its own scent. Like it's not really like I could smell the grapefruit and ginger as separate things. It's almost like they become one and generate this ginger grapefruit thing that I've never smelt anywhere else except for with Tigar and with Vibrato. If I had to describe it, just to give someone the most basic, fundamental, rudimentary idea of what this smells like to me, granted, I like these oversimplified explanations because what can I do on video? I could at best get you in a ballpark, but if you can imagine what it would be like to smell the fizz coming off of a ginger ale, that's the most basic image that I feel like someone could put in my head that would get me the closest to being in the ballpark of what this is. It has a sparkling component and that ginger gives it a classy vibe, but at the same time, it's very light. Like if you think of the world of sodas, you kind of have your most juvenile, fun in the sun, basic sodas, your Fantas, and that's kind of like your afternoon swims, you know, like super citrus. This is citrus in another way. It really leans in a more mature but maintaining freshness kind of vibe. So in the same way that I think of Canada Dry as a more mature, classy soda, is how I see this as a more mature, classy fragrance, but at the same time, it's very light and very wearable. And that's one of the things that makes me really gravitate towards this to begin with. I just like the classy nature of it. A lot of times citruses kind of can be a little bit juvenile, a little out of place, or a little bit like, yeah, I would wear this on a tropical vacation. I'd wear this on a day going to the pool. But in reality, I don't really go on tropical vacations or go to the pool that often. This is much more like a kind of classy scent, but it doesn't come across serious. So all that to just say, like, the best way I could give you the most fundamental idea is the fizz, the sparkling nature, smelling that coming off of a ginger ale is going to get you in a ballpark of what this is to me. Of course, there's grapefruit in it as well. So if you could think of that sparkling fizz and just throw in this really nice, clean citrus scent with it, and it's just balanced perfectly. So you're kind of getting that sparkling ginger ale soda vibe and mix that with the perfectly blended in grapefruit citrus note. That's a lot of what Vibrato is, and it hits me on the opening instantly. I also get a sharpness with Vibrato. almost like a razor edge, something that's like powdery. Okay, now this is the thing with vibrato. People used to say powder, and I would always go along with what people said. I didn't really think for myself much back then, but I got to a place where I thought for myself and I said, you know what? I actually don't really smell powder in vibrato. So I went through this phase of like, vibrato doesn't really have powder in it. Like, what are you guys talking about it? But I would always say vibrato is a very sharp fragrance. And it took me a while to really be able to actually discern the powder. And what the powder is it's really an accent of powder that's just adding to the freshness of it. So you have that sparkling ginger ale, that grapefruit coming in, giving it a citrus. And for me, the powder is not necessarily like I'm smelling baby powder. It's much more like supplemental and just punching the freshness of this even more. And it makes it like a super fresh, razor sharp, very unique scent, like nothing else out there. And it definitely has a very niche quality to it. So the opening is a punch of all those things. Really the first 30 minutes, like the opening isn't like I smell it, it smells a certain way, and then as soon as the alcohol evaporates, it smells different. No, it really carries into the first 30 minutes. That's what I classify as the opening of this scent. And the offness that I smell with this is just like a darkness. It's really weird. I didn't get this last year. But now I do. You know, I theorize that when music's too loud, we kind of interpret it as like distortion. I feel like fragrances, when they are too loud, we can interpret smells as like dark or something off. I don't think there's actually objectively anything off about this. I actually think it has to do with my olfactory system, because I didn't always get that until this time around. And it doesn't really bother me that much. But it's undeniable. Like when I sprayed on vibrato, I was like, what is that? Like, why is it a little bit like off, like dark or something going on? That's the first 30 minutes, my least favorite part of the vibrato experience. Now 30 minutes to 2 hours, now we're in the dry down. That's vibrato prime time for me. And that's just where all those elements come in and are blended perfectly smooth, creating this sharp, super classy scent that's just giving off this really nice scent bubble. I absolutely love it. I love how classy it is, and I love how well it works in high heat. A lot of these classy fragrances run the risk of being too formal or just not working in a really high heat situation, but this one just has such a good balance of being like classy and mature, but also being playful. And I just love that segment, 30 minutes to 2 hours. Now between 2 hours and 7 hours, that's when the scent, it becomes a little bit more softer. Like it never is a sweet fragrance. Like when I say smelling ginger ale, I say the sparkling part of it, because there's really nothing sweet about this to me. But I'd say between hours 2 to 7, it's almost as if it's becoming a bit more sweet, like a bit more rounded, a bit more like easier to process and deal with. I imagine a lot of people might actually like the scent in this phase. I just really like that punch of the initial dry down and how powerful it is and sharp it is. Like that speaks to my inner fragrance enthusiast side. But between hours 2 to 7, I feel like it becomes more of a crowd pleaser, more smooth, more rounded, more easier to digest. Almost as if the grapefruit is becoming a little bit more like a grapefruit candy and a less like a grapefruit tart, like sharpness. So it just becomes smoother, rounder, almost a little bit of a sweetness kind of kicking in between hours 2 to 7. Between hours 7 to 10, I'm basically nose blind. I could kind of tell it's there. Granted, I've gotten a lot of compliments wearing this, and between hours 7 and 10, even though I barely smell it at all, my friend can tell from like 8 feet away as soon as he walks up, you're wearing vibrato. So apparently this stuff just really lasts, even though there's a lot of nose blindness to it. But between hours 7 to 10, that's when I perceive it as a skin scent. And after 10 hours, I can't detect it at all, but it's not to say that other people can't. I'm not really sure. So what's my overall take on vibrato? I mean, I kind of said it in the intro. It feels good to actually like review a fragrance that I love. I've not been as happy with fragrances lately. I don't know if I'm just becoming a negative Nancy or if the ones I'm testing just aren't really that good. But this one I feel like is a real winner. I do feel like this one's undervalued. I feel it's worth more money than what it sells for. There was a time where vibrato was hard to get a hold of. Like, you know, the discounters didn't really have it. And in the secondhand market, they were selling for close to retail. So like almost $300. So that's kind of a testament to vibrato's like really worth more than what it sells for on discounters. The reason it's worth more to me is it's niche, it's unique, it's something totally different. It's very strong. I feel like the quality of ingredients, like when I'm smelling it in the dry down, I feel like it's got a next level quality to it, like really high quality ingredients, really well blended, and just something so different. Like when I look at a collection, like this is one of the standouts for me. There's so many citrus fragrances and so many soapy fragrances and so many smell like a fruit or a tropical drink fragrances for the summer. Like how many do I really need? But when I think of Vibrato, there's really not too many alternatives. Of course, there's Tiger, but I feel like Tiger's a pretty different scent. Yes, they're similar, I get it, but I feel like Tiger, it doesn't really have the powder in it, and it switches that out for Ambroxan. I actually think Tiger, in some situations, I'd rather wear Tiger, like going to an office or being in a crowded elevator, because I feel like Tiger is a bit more shower jelly and a bit more crowd pleasing, mass appealing. This one is more appealing to my inner fragrance nerd. So this one's more like a perfume. Tiger's like a cologne. Like this one's more bright and interesting and different and unique. A bit more of an artistic project, whereas I feel Tiger's more like a smooth Ambroxan-y shower jelly cologne, easy to like, easy to digest kind of scent. But, you know, I feel this one performs better than Tiger. I think it just has a little bit more of a quality appeal to it. And it's like half the cost, even less than half the cost of Tiger. So to me, Vibrato's always been a no-brainer. Now I'm going to get into the negatives of this fragrance. I spent a week thinking, I don't just think, wow, this is so great, everybody should have it. You know, I spend time, I let it sink in. I think of who this is for, who it's not for, what are situations that I felt uncomfortable wearing this, for example. The first thing before I get into the negatives of the scent, the bottle, the felt, I'm just not feeling it. It gets dust all over it. I much would have preferred like a clear glass. I just never liked felt bottles. I just don't like that. And to me, presentation does matter. I like how like holding something and it feels really nice in the hand and it looks clean. And these bottles I'm not as big of a fan of. Now when it goes into the scent, I'm gonna probably get a lot of hate for saying this, but I'm just gonna say it. This scent is pretty abrasive. I think of this as a more challenging fragrance, especially to just regular everyday people. I have reasons and things that make me believe this. One of the ones is I tried doing street interviews once. Now I'm too much of a wimp for that. If you think of doing a street interview, it can sound like a great idea to go up to somebody, show them some colognes on camera. But when you're actually there about to approach a human and do that, it's so nerve-wracking. I only did it a few times. But when I did it, I was showing people Vibrato, Aventus Cologne, and Imagination and asking them to rate all three of them. I felt like I was the most excited to hand them Vibrato. Like I felt like, oh, this is the magic one. And when I did that with the street interviews, people's face would kind of pucker when they smelt this. And this one always just got a really low rating. And that also goes for at my house. At my house, when people come over, I show them a bunch of fragrances and get their opinions on them. Vibrato is one I always show people because I'm super excited. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's so different than anything they've smelt before. But whenever I show them Vibrato, it's pretty much the same reaction a lot of times. Now, some of that could be blamed of this is a really strong fragrance and on paper up close, maybe it's a bit overwhelming and just too strong. But also I think that this fragrance just is abrasive. I think that it's harsh. And I think like when I get a compliment on a fragrance, one of the most common follow-ups is, I really like your fragrance. This is how the conversation goes. I really like your fragrance. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then they ask, what is it? I'll say, blah, blah, blah. It's this or that. And then they'll say, one of the things I really like about it is it's not too strong. And what I think they're trying to communicate to me is it's not abrasive. It's not harsh. Like when we think of abrasive scents, like examples I would use are like bug spray. That's the most abrasive scent I could think of in the world. I'm not saying this smells like bug spray, but you know, if you smell bug spray out, it could like irritate your sinuses. Or another one would be like a Grandma Rose fragrance. You know, that kind of, it can just be irritating. I feel like this one, because of the powder and the grapefruit and the way it is actually really a harsh fragrance. It's abrasive compared to things like Imagination or Creed Aventus. I feel like this one's a bit more tingy, a bit more sharp, a bit more abrasive. And I couldn't help but feel a little bit self-conscious wearing this, like in going on like a crowded elevator or going into a break room at an office. because of how strong it is and how abrasive it is. I just feel like you could tell, like when I'm wearing vibrato and I go into a break room, I could tell I'm just projecting a huge cloud of this stuff. And I'm sure some people like it. And I'm sure some people, I've gotten compliments, but I can't help but get the feeling that for every compliment I get on this one in particular, there's like 10 people wondering why the heck I'm wearing that stuff. And like those people that like get irritated by fragrances, like it affects their sinuses, I feel like vibrato is like one of their worst nightmare fragrances. And I feel like the general public, when I show them something like this, I don't think they get it as much. I think they like things that are smoother, more like vanillas or shower gels, things that are just easier to process and digest, that aren't so pingy and sharp and like powdery and aggressive. So this isn't like my go-to if I'm going into a crowded space, a small space, like where there's not much air ventilation. I'm not really going to reach for vibrato because I just don't feel that confident with it. Like it would suck to be like outside and it's like 105 degrees because I live in Texas. It actually gets that hot. I'm hanging out with some friends and then we go get in the car to drive somewhere and the car's really hot and I'm projecting this like sharp, tingy, powdery grapefruit bomb in the car. Like I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to do that. I don't feel confident doing that. So like it's kind of like one of those things on a really hot summer day. If I know I'm going to a place that has a lot of air ventilation, like me and my wife are going to the Chili's, and there's, plenty of room in there. And then afterwards we're going to the park and there's plenty of room outside. I'll wear something like vibrato. But if I'm going to like the workplace, I'm going inside a building, a small quarter, I reach more for things like L'Immensité or Tiger because I just feel like they're smoother and easier to digest and process for the general public. But more than that, I personally just feel more confident giving off that kind of scent in those environments. I also think of this as like a very niche scent. I don't think it's going to resonate with just everybody. I don't think, it's amazing. I feel like there are some people that are going to find this too harsh, too powdery. I don't think it's blind buy safe. That's my personal opinion, but I feel like it's a very strong opinion that I have. Like I'm very open-minded and I'm sure there are going to be people out there and their opinion is just as valid as mine, by the way. But they're going to say in the comments, I disagree completely. Vibrato's blind buy safe. Sure, you have your opinion. And sometimes I could be open-minded and kind of see where you're coming from. But with this one, I feel pretty closed off. Like, I feel like, no, this is not blind buy safe. I just don't think it is. I think that this is going to be too harsh for some people, too tingy, too trebly, too bug spray-esque or like sharp and abrasive. And I think some people are just not going to like it. The fate of this fragrance is that people are going to say it got reformulated and that it's like water and a shadow of its former self. They're already saying that with the French batches that are coming out. I did a video side-by-siding. This is Italian, but I side-by-sided it with the French vibrato. I can't tell a difference at all. My friend said he got 5% more projection from the Italian one. And I'm not saying this to invalidate other people's experiences. I'm just sharing my experience. Every great fragrance, every single great fragrance in fragrance community becomes a shadow of its former self. It's almost as if people can't knock the fragrance, they'll just say it got reformulated. And it's a weird cycle. It just happens all the time. And I'll go back and buy the vintage versions of these fragrances, and they smell either exactly the same as the current formulation, or they smell bad because like the top notes are faded and I like the current formulation more. I'm not going to get into details, but it just seems every legendary fragrance ends up going down that route. And that's 100% what's going to happen with this one. And I guarantee it's going to happen with Imagination. Just give it time. And the only reason I feel like it hasn't happened with the Imagination yet is just because they do refills. So it's hard to track batch codes. But if they were tracking, you were able to track batch codes, I guarantee you people would say, oh, Imagination, it's nothing like what it used to be. It's a shadow of its former self. That's the fate of vibrato. 100%, it's already happening, and that is what it is. There are people saying they get like an hour max out of this. Like, I feel like they're either going nose blind, they didn't get a legitimate bottle. That or maybe their quality assurance at this new French manufacturing facility isn't that good, so there's variation between batch codes. I don't really know the exact reason why they're only getting an hour. All I can tell you is this is a strong fragrance. The new batches, the French batches are strong. It's excellent. I think it will always be excellent. And I also guarantee you, Come back to this video in a couple years and people say, oh, Vibrato's nothing like what it used to be. That's just the fate of every great fragrance. It's really trippy. So the vibe I get from Vibrato, it really does give me a bit of a pompous vibe, like to some extent, like posh, upscale, almost like a Rolls Royce style guy who's always dressed to impress, dressed really nice, overly dressed, kind of like posh, pompous feel. Like I'm just being straight up. It has that for me at least, and that a lot of that is just the powdery freshness and classy nature of it. But I feel like even though it has that kind of posh feeling, it also is balanced out with like a very casual, summer, laid back, relaxed scent. So the vibe of Vibrato is somebody who's into niche fragrances. I really appreciate their ability to pull off almost combining like opposite worlds to me. On one end, this gives me that Creed, Royal Mayfair, posh, almost overly classy feel, but it's also casual. And I'm like in between the two, like, how did they combine yin and yang here? How did they do that? And as somebody who's into fragrance and into the artistic expression of them, it's very hard to find like a summer high heat fragrance that really is this creative. And when I get this in the air, if it were to mix with the air, somebody's walking by and I just get a whiff of it, and I'm not really exposed to fragrances like that, I think it's one of those ones that would just turn my head. Like I'd be really surprised. Love it or hate it, I think I would just be like, wow, that's something else. So I think of this as a very head turner fragrance. When I wear this, I feel like I'm making a statement. I don't feel like I'm just laid back in the room wearing another soapy shower gel scent or something people have been exposed to. Nah, I feel like I'm wearing something very loud that's very much so announcing itself. And I like that about this fragrance. I can appreciate those things, even though they're not for everybody. And a lot of people, maybe they don't want to make a statement with their fragrance or really stand out or make a scene. Like I totally respect and understand that. And I don't always want to make a statement. Sometimes I'm having a bad day. I just want to be in the corner and be left alone. But on those days, I feel really confident. And I feel like wearing something that just speaks and has this classy but casual nature. Vibrato is the vibe for me. That's when I reach for it the most.
So first off, we have vibrato. Vibrato. Okay, so for those who don't know, vibrato in music means a vibration of sound. So instead of sound being flat, with vibrato, it would have a wave. Now you know. I didn't need to tell you that, but I did. So, anyways, vibrato the first thought that comes to my mind is like minty. Like it has like a herbally eucalyptus minty thing going. I'm not aware of the notes, but so I'm not sure if that's what's going on, but that's the impression that I have right now. That combined with like a super fresh, clean laundry moment. But if you've heard my reviews before, then you know that that's a good thing, because that just means that you smell fresh and clean. It is a light scent. It's not like an overwhelming scent. It does make me think of somebody perhaps over the age of 30 and up. I love it. It smells really good. I think you could use it all around the year, around the different seasons. So for that, this is a 10. Like if we are outside, I don't know you, you come up to me, nice to meet you, and you smell like this, very, very good.
Do you think it's unisex?
No, it's not unisex. I would say that is definitely masculine scent.
Dry down.
In the dry down, there's something more fruity about it. I'm not quite sure if it's citrus, but definitely fruity. In the good way, in a masculine way, not in a, sweet fruit, but like a citrus green fruit.